The creation. This is how the beginning of everything happened. God created the universe and everything in it in 6 days. After God created the earth, it was dark and empty, and nothing had been formed in it. But God's Spirit was there over the water. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and called it day. He separated it from the darkness, which he called night. God created the light on the first day of creation. On the second day of creation, God spoke and created the sky above the earth. He made the sky by separating the water above from the water below. On the third day, God spoke and separated the water from the dry land. He called the dry land earth, and he called the water seas. God saw that what he had created was good. Then God said, "Let the earth produce all kinds of trees and plants." And that is what happened. God saw that what he had created was good. On the fourth day of creation, God spoke and made the sun, the moon, and the stars. God made them to give light to the earth and to mark day and night, seasons and years. God saw that what he had created was good. On the fifth day, God spoke and made everything that swims in the water and all the birds. God saw that it was good, and he blessed them. On the sixth day of creation, God said, "Let there be all kinds of land animals." And it happened, just like God said. Some were farm animals, some crawled on the ground, and some were wild. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image, to be like us. They will have authority over the earth and all the animals." So God took some dirt, formed it into a man, and breathed life into him. This man's name was Adam. God planted a garden where Adam could live and put him there to care for it. In the middle of the garden, God planted 2 special trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God told Adam that he could eat from any tree in the garden except from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If he ate from this tree, he would die. Then God said, "It is not good for man to be alone," but none of the animals could be Adam's helper. So God made Adam fall into a deep sleep. Then God took one of Adam's ribs and made it into a woman and brought her to him. When Adam saw her, he said, "At last, this one is like me. Let her be called woman, for she was made from man." This is why a man leaves his father and mother and becomes one with his wife. God made man and woman in his own image. He blessed them and told them, "Have many children and grandchildren, and fill the earth." And God saw that everything he had made was very good, and he was very pleased with all of it. This all happened on the 6th day of creation. When the 7th day came, God had finished his work. So God rested from all he had been doing. He blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on this day he rested from his work. This is how God created the universe and everything in it. Story number 2. Sin enters the world. Adam and his wife were very happy living in the beautiful garden God had made for them. Neither of them wore clothes, but this did not cause them to feel any shame, because there was no sin in the world. They often walked in the garden and talked with God. But there was a crafty snake in the garden. He asked the woman, "Did God really tell you not to eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden?" The woman answered, God told us we could eat the fruit of any tree except from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God told us, if you eat that fruit, or even touch it, you will die. The snake responded to the woman, that is not true. You will not die. God just knows that as soon as you eat it, you will be like God and will understand good and evil, like He does. The woman saw that the fruit was beautiful and looked delicious. She also wanted to be wise, so she picked some of the fruit and ate it. Then she gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it too. Suddenly, their eyes were opened, and they realized they were naked. They tried to cover their bodies by sewing leaves together to make clothes. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of God walking through the garden. They both hid from God. Then God called to the man, Where are you? Adam replied, I heard you walking in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, so I hid. Then God asked, Who told you that you were naked? Did you eat the fruit I told you not to eat? The man answered, You gave me this woman, and she gave me the fruit. Then God asked the woman, What have you done? The woman replied, The snake tricked me. God said to the snake, You are cursed. You will slide on your belly and eat dirt. You and the woman will hate each other, and your children and her children will hate each other too. The woman's descendant will crush your head, and you will wound his heel. God then said to the woman, I will make childbirth very painful for you. You will desire your husband, and he will rule over you. God said to the man, You listened to your wife and disobeyed me. Now the ground is cursed, and you will need to work hard to grow food. Then you will die, and your body will return to dirt. The man named his wife Eve, which means life-giver, because she would become the mother of all people. And God clothed Adam and Eve with animal skins. Then God said, Now that the human beings have become like us by knowing good and evil, they must not be allowed to eat the fruit of the tree of life and live forever. So God sent Adam and Eve away from the beautiful garden. God placed powerful angels at the entrance to the garden to keep anyone from eating the fruit of the tree of life. Story number 3, the flood. After a long time, many people were living in the world. They had become very wicked and violent. It became so bad that God decided to destroy the whole world with a huge flood. But Noah found favor with God. He was a righteous man living among wicked people. God told Noah about the flood he was planning to send. He told Noah to build a huge boat. God told Noah to make the boat about 140 meters long, 23 meters wide, and 13.5 meters high. Noah was to build it with wood and to make 3 levels, many rooms, a roof, and a window. The boat would keep Noah, his family, and every kind of land animal safe during the flood. Noah obeyed God. He and his 3 sons built the boat just the way God had told them. It took many years to build the boat because it was so big. Noah warned the people about the flood that was coming and told them to turn to God, but they did not believe him. God also commanded Noah and his family to gather enough food for themselves and the animals. When everything was ready, God told Noah it was time for him, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives to get into the boat, 8 people in all. God sent a male and a female of every animal and bird to Noah, so they could go into the boat and be kept safe during the flood. God sent 7 males and 7 females of every type of animal that could be used for sacrifices. When they were all in the boat, God himself closed the door. Then it began to rain. and rain and rain. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights without stopping. Water also came gushing up out of the earth. Everything in the whole world was covered with water, even the highest mountains. Everything that lived on the dry land died, except the people and animals that were in the boat. The boat floated on the water and kept everything inside the boat safe from drowning. After the rains stopped, the boat floated on the water for 5 months, and during this time, the water started going down. Then one day the boat rested on the top of a mountain, but the world was still covered with water. After 3 more months, the tops of the mountains were visible. After 40 more days, Noah sent out a bird called a raven to see if the water had dried up. The raven flew back and forth looking for dry land, but it could not find any. Later, Noah sent out a bird called a dove, but it also could not find any dry land, so it came back to Noah. A week later, he sent the dove out again, and it came back with an olive branch in its beak. The water was going down, and the plants were growing again. Noah waited another week and sent out the dove a third time. This time it found a place to rest and did not come back. The water was drying up. 2 months later, God said to Noah, "You and your family and all the animals may leave the boat now. Have many children and grandchildren and fill the earth." So Noah and his family came out of the boat. After Noah got off the boat, he built an altar and sacrificed some of each kind of animal that could be used for a sacrifice. God was happy with the sacrifice and blessed Noah and his family. God said, "I promise I will never again curse the ground because of the evil things that people do, or destroy the world by causing a flood, even though people are sinful from the time they are children." God then made the first rainbow as a sign of his promise. Every time the rainbow appeared in the sky, God would remember what he promised, and so would his people. Story number 4. God's covenant with Abraham. Many years after the flood, there were again many people in the world, and they all spoke the same language. Instead of filling the earth as God had commanded, they gathered together and built a city. They were very proud, and they did not care about what God said. They even began building a tall tower to reach heaven. God saw that if they all kept working together to do evil, they could do many more sinful things. So God changed their language into many different languages and spread the people out all over the world. The city they had begun to build was called Babel, which means confused. Hundreds of years later, God spoke to a man named Abram. God told him, "Leave your country and family and go to the land I will show you. I will bless you and make you a great nation. I will make your name great. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. All families on earth will be blessed because of you." So Abram obeyed God. He took his wife Sarai, together with all of his servants and everything he owned, and went to the land God showed him, the land of Canaan. When Abram arrived in Canaan, God said, "Look all around you. I will give to you and your descendants all the land that you can see as an inheritance." Then Abram settled in the land. One day Abram met Melchizedek, the priest of God Most High. Melchizedek blessed Abram and said, "May God Most High, who owns heaven and earth, bless Abram." Then Abram gave Melchizedek 1/10 of all he owned. Many years went by, but Abram and Sarai still did not have a son. God spoke to Abram and promised again that he would have a son and as many descendants as the stars in the sky. Abram believed God's promise. God declared that Abram was righteous because he believed in God's promise. Then God made a covenant with Abram. A covenant is an agreement between two parties. God said, I will give you a son from your own body. I give the land of Canaan to your descendants. But Abram still did not have a son. Story number 5. The Son of Promise. 10 years after Abram and Sarai arrived in Canaan, they still did not have a child. So Abram's wife Sarai said to him, Since God has not allowed me to have children, and now I am too old to have children, here is my servant Hagar. Marry her also, so she can have a child for me. So Abram married Hagar. Hagar had a baby boy, and Abram named him Ishmael. But Sarai became jealous of Hagar. When Ishmael was 13 years old, God again spoke to Abram. God said, I am God Almighty. I will make a covenant with you. Then Abram bowed to the ground. God also told Abram, You will be the father of many nations. I will give you and your descendants the land of Canaan as their possession, and I will be their God forever. You must circumcise every male in your family. Your wife Sarai will have a son. He will be the son of promise. Name him Isaac. I will make my covenant with him, and he will become a great nation. I will make Ishmael a great nation too, but my covenant will be with Isaac. Then God changed Abram's name to Abraham, which means father of many. God also changed Sarai's name to Sarah, which means princess. That day, Abraham circumcised all the males in his household. About a year later, when Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90, Sarah gave birth to Abraham's son. They named him Isaac, as God had told them to do. When Isaac was a young man, God tested Abraham's faith by saying, Take Isaac, your only son, and kill him as a sacrifice to me. Again, Abraham obeyed God and prepared to sacrifice his son. As Abraham and Isaac walked to the place of sacrifice, Isaac asked, Father, we have wood for the sacrifice, but where is the lamb? Abraham replied, God will provide the lamb for the sacrifice, my son. When they reached the place of sacrifice, Abraham tied up his son Isaac and laid him on an altar. He was about to kill his son when God said, Stop. Do not hurt the boy. Now I know that you fear me because you did not keep your only son from me. Nearby, Abraham saw a ram that was stuck in a bush. God had provided the ram to be the sacrifice instead of Isaac. Abraham happily offered the ram as a sacrifice. Then God said to Abraham, Because you were willing to give me everything, even your only son, I promise to bless you. Your descendants will be more than the stars in the sky. Because you have obeyed me, all the families of the world will be blessed through your family. Story number 6. God provides for Isaac. When Abraham was very old, his son Isaac had grown to be a man. So Abraham sent one of his servants back to the land where his relatives lived to bring back a wife for his son Isaac. After a very long journey to the land where Abraham's relatives lived, God led the servant to Rebekah. She was the granddaughter of Abraham's brother. Rebekah agreed to leave her family and go back with the servant to Isaac's home. Isaac married her as soon as she arrived. After a long time, Abraham died, and all of the promises that God had made to him in the covenant were passed on to Isaac. God had promised that Abraham would have countless descendants, but Isaac's wife Rebekah could not have children. Isaac prayed for Rebekah, and God allowed her to get pregnant with twins. The two babies struggled with each other while they were still in Rebekah's womb. So Rebekah asked God what was happening. God told Rebekah, 2 nations will come from the 2 sons inside of you. They will struggle with each other, and the older son will serve the younger one. When Rebekah's babies were born, the older son came out red and hairy, and they named him Esau. Then the younger son came out holding on to Esau's heel, and they named him Jacob. Story number 7. God blesses Jacob. As the boys grew up, Jacob loved to stay at home, but Esau loved to hunt. Rebekah loved Jacob, but Isaac loved Esau. One day, when Esau came back from hunting, he was very hungry. Esau said to Jacob, "Please, give me some of the food you have made." Jacob responded, "First, give me your rights as the oldest son." So Esau gave Jacob his rights as the oldest son. Then Jacob gave him some food. Isaac wanted to give his blessing to Esau, but before he did, Rebekah and Jacob tricked him by having Jacob pretend to be Esau. Isaac was old and could no longer see, so Jacob put on Esau's clothes and put goatskins on his neck and hands. Jacob came to Isaac and said, "I am Esau. I have come so that you can bless me." When Isaac felt the goat hair and smelled the clothes, he thought it was Esau and blessed him. Esau hated Jacob because Jacob had stolen his rights as oldest son and also his blessing. So he planned to kill Jacob after their father died. But Rebekah heard of Esau's plan, so she and Isaac sent Jacob far away to live with her relatives. Jacob lived with Rebekah's relatives for many years. During that time, he married and had 12 sons and a daughter. God made him very wealthy. After 20 years away from his home in Canaan, Jacob returned there with his family, his servants, and all his herds of animals. Jacob was very afraid because he thought Esau still wanted to kill him. So he sent many herds of animals to Esau as a gift. The servants who brought the animals said to Esau, "Your servant Jacob is giving you these animals. He is coming soon." But Esau had already forgiven Jacob, and they were happy to see each other again. Jacob then lived peacefully in Canaan. Then Isaac died, and Jacob and Esau buried him. The covenant promises God had promised to Abraham now passed on from Isaac to Jacob. Story number 8. God saves Joseph and his family. Many years later, when Jacob was an old man, he sent his favorite son Joseph to check on his brothers who were taking care of the herds. Joseph's brothers hated him because their father loved him most and because Joseph had dreamed that he would be their ruler. When Joseph came to his brothers, they kidnapped him and sold him to some slave traders. Before Joseph's brothers returned home, they tore Joseph's robe and dipped it in goat's blood. Then they showed the robe to their father so he would think that a wild animal had killed Joseph. Jacob was very sad. The slave traders took Joseph to Egypt. Egypt was a large, powerful country located along the Nile River. The slave traders sold Joseph as a slave to a wealthy government official. Joseph served his master well, and God blessed Joseph. His master's wife tried to sleep with Joseph, but Joseph refused to sin against God in this way. She became angry and falsely accused Joseph, so that he was arrested and sent to prison. Even in prison, Joseph remained faithful to God, and God blessed him. After 2 years, Joseph was still in prison, even though he was innocent. One night, the Pharaoh, which is what the Egyptians called their kings, had 2 dreams that disturbed him greatly. None of his advisors could tell him the meaning of the dreams. God had given Joseph the ability to interpret dreams, so Pharaoh had Joseph brought to him from the prison. Joseph interpreted the dreams for him and said, "God is going to send 7 years of plentiful harvests, followed by 7 years of famine." Pharaoh was so impressed with Joseph that he appointed him to be the second most powerful man in all of Egypt. Joseph told the people to store up large amounts of food during the 7 years of good harvests. Then Joseph sold the food to the people when the 7 years of famine came, so they would have enough to eat. The famine was severe, not only in Egypt, but also in Canaan, where Jacob and his family lived. So Jacob sent his older sons to Egypt to buy food. The brothers did not recognize Joseph when they stood before him to buy food, but Joseph recognized them. After testing his brothers to see if they had changed, Joseph said to them, "I am your brother, Joseph. Do not be afraid. You tried to do evil when you sold me as a slave, but God used the evil for good. Come and live in Egypt, so I can provide for you and your families." When Joseph's brothers returned home and told their father Jacob that Joseph was still alive, he was very happy. Even though Jacob was an old man, he moved to Egypt with all of his family, and they all lived there. Before Jacob died, he blessed each of his sons. The covenant promises that God gave to Abraham were passed on to Isaac, then to Jacob, and then to Jacob's 12 sons and their families. The descendants of the 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel. Story number 9. God calls Moses. After Joseph died, all of his relatives stayed in Egypt. They and their descendants continued to live there for many years and had many children. They were called the Israelites. After hundreds of years, the number of Israelites had become very large. The Egyptians no longer remembered Joseph and all he had done to help them. They became afraid of the Israelites because there were so many of them. So the Pharaoh, who was ruling Egypt at that time, made the Israelites slaves to the Egyptians. The Egyptians forced the Israelites to build many buildings and even whole cities. The hard work made their lives miserable, but God blessed them, and they had even more children. Pharaoh saw that the Israelites were having many babies, so he ordered his people to kill all Israelite baby boys by throwing them into the Nile River. A certain Israelite woman gave birth to a baby boy. She and her husband hid the baby for as long as they could. When the boy's parents could no longer hide him, they put him in a floating basket among the reeds along the edge of the Nile River in order to save him from being killed. His older sister watched to see what would happen to him. A daughter of Pharaoh saw the basket and looked inside. When she saw the baby, she took him as her own son. She hired an Israelite woman to nurse him without realizing the woman was the baby's own mother. When the child was old enough that he no longer needed his mother's milk, she returned him to Pharaoh's daughter, who named him Moses. One day when Moses had grown up, he saw an Egyptian beating an Israelite slave. Moses tried to save his fellow Israelite. When Moses thought nobody would see, he killed the Egyptian and buried his body. But someone saw what Moses had done. When Pharaoh heard what Moses had done, he tried to kill him. Moses ran away from Egypt to the wilderness where he would be safe from Pharaoh's soldiers. Moses became a shepherd in the wilderness far away from Egypt. He married a woman from that place and had 2 sons. One day, while Moses was taking care of his sheep, he saw a bush that was on fire, but the bush did not burn up. Moses went towards the bush to be able to see it better. As he approached the burning bush, the voice of God said, "Moses, take off your shoes. You are standing on holy ground." God said, "I have seen the suffering of my people. I will send you to Pharaoh so that you can bring the Israelites out of their slavery in Egypt. I will give them the land of Canaan, the land I promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Moses asked, "What if the people want to know who sent me? What should I say?" God said, "I am who I am. Tell them, I am has sent me to you. Also tell them, I am Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is my name forever." Moses was afraid and did not want to go to Pharaoh because he thought he could not speak well. So God sent Moses' brother Aaron to help him. God warned Moses and Aaron that Pharaoh would be stubborn. Story number 10, the 10 plagues. Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh. They said, "This is what the God of Israel says. Let my people go." Pharaoh did not listen to them. Instead of letting the Israelites go free, he forced them to work even harder. Pharaoh kept refusing to let the people go, so God sent 10 terrible plagues on Egypt. Through these plagues, God showed Pharaoh that he is more powerful than Pharaoh and all of Egypt's gods. God turned the Nile River into blood, but Pharaoh still would not let the Israelites go. God sent frogs all over Egypt. Pharaoh begged Moses to take away the frogs, but after all the frogs died, Pharaoh hardened his heart and would not let the Israelites leave Egypt. So God sent a plague of gnats. Then he sent a plague of flies. Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and told them that if they stopped the plague, the Israelites could leave Egypt. When Moses prayed, God removed all the flies from Egypt. But Pharaoh hardened his heart and would not let the people go free. Next, God caused all the farm animals that belonged to the Egyptians to get sick and die. But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not let the Israelites go. Then God told Moses to throw ashes into the air in front of Pharaoh. When he did, painful skin sores appeared on the Egyptians, but not on the Israelites. God hardened Pharaoh's heart, and Pharaoh would not let the Israelites go free. After that, God sent hail that destroyed most of the crops in Egypt and killed anybody who went outside. Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and told them, "I have sinned. You may go." So Moses prayed, and the hail stopped falling from the sky. But Pharaoh sinned again and hardened his heart. He would not let the Israelites go free. So God caused swarms of locusts to come over Egypt. These locusts ate all the crops that the hail had not destroyed. Then God sent darkness that lasted for 3 days. It was so dark that the Egyptians could not leave their houses, but there was light where the Israelites lived. Even after these 9 plagues, Pharaoh still refused to let the Israelites go free. Since Pharaoh would not listen, God planned to send one last plague. This would change Pharaoh's mind. Story number 11, the Passover. God warned Pharaoh that if he did not let the Israelites go, then he would kill all the firstborn males of Egypt's people and animals. When Pharaoh heard this, he still refused to believe and obey God. God provided a way to save the firstborn son of anyone who believed in him. Each family had to choose a perfect lamb and kill it. God told the Israelites to put some of the lamb's blood around the door of their house and to roast the meat and eat it quickly, along with bread that was made without yeast. He also told them to be ready to leave Egypt when they ate. The Israelites did everything just as God had commanded them to do. In the middle of the night, God went throughout Egypt, killing every firstborn son. All the houses of the Israelites had blood around the doors, so God passed over those houses. Everybody inside them was safe. They were saved because of the lamb's blood. But the Egyptians did not believe God or obey his commands, so God did not pass over their houses. God killed every one of the Egyptians' firstborn sons. Every Egyptian firstborn male died, from the firstborn of the prisoner in jail to the firstborn of Pharaoh. Many people in Egypt were crying and wailing because of their deep sadness. That same night, Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, "Take the Israelites and leave Egypt immediately." The Egyptian people also urged the Israelites to leave immediately. Story number 12, the Exodus. The Israelites were very happy to leave Egypt. They were no longer slaves, and they were going to the promised land. The Egyptians gave the Israelites whatever they asked for, even gold and silver and other valuable things. Some people from other nations believed in God and went along with the Israelites as they left Egypt. God led them with a tall pillar of cloud that went ahead of them during the day, and which became a tall pillar of fire at night. God was always with them and guided them as they traveled. All they had to do was follow him. After a short time, Pharaoh and his people changed their minds and wanted the Israelites to be their slaves again. God caused Pharaoh to be stubborn so that people would see he is the one true God and understand that he, Yahweh, is more powerful than Pharaoh and his gods. So Pharaoh and his army chased after the Israelites to make them their slaves again. When the Israelites saw the Egyptian army coming, they realized they were trapped between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea. They were very afraid and cried out, "Why did we leave Egypt? We are going to die." Moses told the Israelites, "Stop being afraid. God will fight for you today and save you." Then God told Moses, "Tell the people to move toward the Red Sea." Then God moved the pillar of cloud and placed it between the Israelites and the Egyptians, so the Egyptians could not see the Israelites. God told Moses to raise his hand over the sea and divide the waters. Then God caused wind to push the water in the sea to the left and the right, so that a path formed through the sea. The Israelites marched through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on either side of them. Then God moved the cloud up and out of the way so that the Egyptians could see the Israelites escaping. The Egyptians decided to chase after them. So they followed the Israelites onto the path through the sea, but God caused the Egyptians to panic and caused their chariots to get stuck. They shouted, "Run away! God is fighting for the Israelites." After the Israelites all made it safely to the other side of the sea, God told Moses to stretch out his arm again. When he obeyed, the water fell on the Egyptian army and returned to its normal place. The whole Egyptian army drowned. When the Israelites saw that the Egyptians were dead, they trusted in God and believed that Moses was a prophet of God. The Israelites also rejoiced with much excitement because God had saved them from death and slavery. Now they were free to serve God. The Israelites sang many songs to celebrate their new freedom and to praise God because he saved them from the Egyptian army. God commanded the Israelites to celebrate the Passover every year in order to remember how God gave them victory over the Egyptians and rescued them from being slaves. They celebrated by killing a perfect lamb, eating it with bread that was made without yeast.